like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols, reaming my body.
This chapter right here was potentially series altering, literally. We now have the possibility and the potential of Naruto, the literal star of the whole series, about to die. We as a fan base of Boruto, and some of you guys probably weren't even fans of Boruto for a very long time, but as of right now, even diehard fans of Naruto, we have been dreading this moment for a very long time. We all knew that there was definitely a possibility of either Naruto or Sasuke dying in the series of Boruto, but we never really thought that we'd actually get there, man. Me personally, I thought it would never happen, and I'm still actually holding out hope that it probably won't happen as well. I'm just telling you guys right now, I'm just not prepared. The thing about this whole situation is the fact that Naruto's entering a brand new form that potentially has never actually been used before. Kurama himself doesn't really know a lot about this form. The damning thing that Kurama said in this chapter is the fact that if he does actually use this form, Naruto is going to die. It's like a do or a die type of situation. But again, Kurama doesn't really know a lot about this form. So it could possibly be a situation where Kurama thinks that Naruto was definitely about to die, but he may not. But I'm going to go off of actually believing Kurama and actually say that Naruto, after he uses this form, is most likely going to die. Of course, the biggest part about this whole situation is the fact that Sasuke can potentially use a Rinne Rebirth. And from what the data books tells us, if Sasuke actually does use the Rinne Rebirth, Sasuke will then actually die. It's basically a death sentence. But going off of the examples that we did see in the actual series, that doesn't necessarily seem like the case. Now, of course, the first time that we really did see the Rinne Rebirth being used when Pain attacked the Hidden Leaf Village and killed a bunch of people, and of course he Rinne Rebirthed and revived a bunch of people. I should point out that this right here is even a more extreme scenario, man, because Nagato himself revived, as I said, a bunch of people. It could possibly take in a lot more chakra than it would take for him to revive just one person. But again, I do want to point out that this statement right here is basically just headcanon. This is not actually written down, but just the possibility of that taking up more chakra is definitely a very good one. Before Nagato actually did use the Rinne Rebirth, Kurama basically made it seem like Pain would actually survive the Rinne Rebirth if he had a little bit more chakra. She was basically saying that you're too low on chakra right now, why do you have to do it right now? I mean, just a tiny refresher, Nagato used up a bunch of his chakra because he wants to use the almighty push to pretty much destroy the Hidden Leaf Village. He had to use up so much chakra that after that, he pretty much couldn't use the almighty push for about half of the battle with Naruto. And that made me think, and of course a lot of other people think, that if Nagato was actually 100% healthy, if Nagato was actually 100% in chakra, he would then survive a Rinne Rebirth, which then potentially provides hope for Sasuke. In other situations, of course, when Obito used the Rinne Rebirth to revive Madara, of course that was definitely a very bad scene for a lot of people involved. The notable thing in that situation is the fact that Obito did not die directly after that situation happened. Of course, the only reason why Obito himself was still alive at that particular point was because of the presence of Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu was basically keeping Obito upright and basically moving around and also conscious after a while. So from what we've seen already in the Naruto series, it's pretty much not a death sentence if you actually do use the Rinne Rebirth. Now, another thing about Sasuke I do want to point out is the fact that Sasuke, other than regular ninjas, he has a lot more chakra than them. So, and I understand that the running joke in the Boruto series is the fact that Sasuke is always short on chakra, but the best thing about this particular situation is the fact that Sasuke didn't necessarily overuse his rinnegan to get to this battle. I'm pretty sure you guys understand, every significant battle that Sasuke has actually been on, he had to use his rinnegan to actually travel through time space to actually get to that particular point. When he fought against Kinshiki that one time, he had to open a portal to get there, and of course he had to reserve some chakra to actually open a portal to actually get back to his own dimension. When he fought against Momoshiki with Naruto, he had to open a portal and teleport not only himself but also multiple other people as well, and also the other Kages as well, and of course he had to open a portal to actually get back. And some pretty damning evidence to basically show everybody that Sasuke's chakra reserves are absolutely insane. If you guys do recall, back when he was fighting against Isshiki and he was basically caught off guard, when Isshiki stole Sasuke's chakra, he basically had a huge ball of purple chakra. When Isshiki stole anybody else's chakra, their chakra was definitely not that big. And not only that, when Isshiki stole anybody else's chakra, they completely collapsed. In the situation with Sasuke, Sasuke was still upright and he was still chilling. Of course, Sasuke was extremely tired, but he was still upright and he was still talking. For example, when he stole Mitsuki's chakra, when he was in Sage mode of all things, Mitsuki had to be hospitalized for days until he actually woke up. And the good thing about right now is the fact that Sasuke right now has an unusual amount of chakra because, as I stated before, he basically uses Rinnegan to open up portals to get to the fights where he actually had to get through. But in this particular situation, he didn't really use his Rinnegan to get to this fight. The avenue that he took to get here was not from himself. He got there from a portal that Boruto himself opened. So coming into this battle, Sasuke has actually been like the healthiest that he's ever been, and that could potentially be a very good sign for Sasuke actually having the requisite chakra reserves to to actually perform a Rinne Rebirth on Naruto and potentially like be scraping the barrel of death but not actually die. Now depending on how this battle goes, it might be a certain situation where Sasuke is actually able to absorb some chakra from Isshiki Uchiha before Isshiki Uchiha does actually die. That's of course assuming that Naruto actually does beat Isshiki Uchiha with the brand new form that he does have. If that is the situation and Sasuke can actually get to 100% chakra reserves, then I'm gonna feel very good about Sasuke's chances of actually surviving a Rinne Rebirth, just like how Conan was actually confident about Nagato surviving Rinne Rebirthing dozens and potentially even hundreds of people if he was actually at full strength and full chakra reserves. Another thing that makes me a bit more confident about Sasuke using the Rinne Rebirth and him actually being alive is the fact that Sasuke doesn't necessarily have a regular rinnegan. I'm pretty sure we all know at this particular point Sasuke's rinnegan is extremely special. It's basically a toe mode rinnegan, and from what we've seen in the battle versus Madara, his rinnegan is a lot stronger than the regular rinnegan. So it would not behoove me at all if Sasuke's rinnegan basically allowed Sasuke to use a Rinne Rebirth and basically allowed him the ability to actually be alive after a situation like this. Even with all the things I said before to basically make it seem like Sasuke would then be alive, let's just assume that he would still die with a regular rinnegan, because Sasuke does have the luxury of having a toe mode rinnegan, a much more stronger and much more powerful rinnegan than the regular rinnegan. It could then be an added benefit to basically help Sasuke survive a jutsu just like the Rinne Rebirth. And we also have to take into the Obito scenario. As I said before, Obito used the Rinne Rebirth on Baara to basically bring him back alive, but Obito himself didn't actually die mainly because he had Black Zetsu attached to him, which is basically keeping him upright and basically keeping him alive. And after a while, Obito was still then miraculously alive. There might be a situation where Naruto or somebody else in that particular situation could potentially summon something to help Sasuke out until he actually gets back on his feet. Of course, he then needs complete round-the-clock life support or something like that, but of course there's still just a lot of scenarios that could potentially keep Sasuke alive if he does in fact decides to use Rinne Rebirth. But I have to point this out real quick. If the Boruto wants Naruto to die, they're going to have Naruto die. It's all about what the Boruto writers want. And of course, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys, just like me, do not want to see Naruto die. But if the Boruto writers feel the need to actually kill off Naruto, as Masashi Kishimoto said, the writer of the original Naruto series, they are allowed to do so. Of course, none of these countermeasures even matter. And of course, same thing goes for Sasuke. If Sasuke does feel the need to use a Rinne Rebirth on Naruto and Sasuke doesn't actually come back from the Rinne Rebirth, that is because the writers wanted Sasuke to actually die in that particular situation. Maybe they would make it a scene where it's like that ironic scene where Sasuke once tried to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village because of his brother Itachi, and of course he once hated the Hidden Leaf Village, but now he's actually dying for the Hidden Leaf Village and of course saving the Hokage out of all people. The writers are just going to do what they want to do. One of the things that I'm extremely disappointed in though, I really hope that this Naruto form is going to be a sustained form from Naruto. I thought it was going to be like a sustainable power up. Now I do want to point out the door is not completely closed for this form to actually be a sustained power up, but from what we're seeing right now, it looks extremely dim. As I said, the door is not completely closed. It might be a certain situation where Kurama just completely underestimated Naruto's body and Naruto's ability to endure that particular form, and now Naruto actually just has a brand new form. But I thought that Naruto was just gonna master this form, potentially add Sage Mode on top of that. Sage Mode definitely makes Naruto's body a lot more durable, so he could potentially mitigate a little bit of the risk when entering that form. A whole bunch of things were entering my mind when I first found out that this form was actually gonna be a thing, but it seems like that right there might not actually happen. But I do want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Do you guys think that Naruto's form is actually going to be a death sentence for him, or do you guys think that there's a possibility that Sasuke can actually use Rinne Rebirth on Naruto? And if that is the situation, do you guys think that the Rinne Rebirth would then be a death sentence for Sasuke as well? A whole bunch of things that I want you guys to let me know about in the comment section below. Now I appreciate you guys basically listening to my mini vent session, mainly because this right here is basically a fan of the Naruto series not wanting to see Naruto or Sasuke die, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are in the same situation that I am in. And I said this on Twitter and I'm gonna say it here: we have to wait a whole month to figure out exactly what's going on. It's hurting my soul, guys, but it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.